Pokemon cards are really cool. So back in primary school, when I was maybe 9 years old, Pokemon cards pretty much showed up out of nowhere. One day we were playing with Lego cars and yo-yos, and then the next, bam, out of nowhere came Pokemon cards and everyone had them. And I mean literally everyone. I show up to school one day and my friend Sam pulled me over and showed me some of his new cards. Well, maybe new is an overstatement. They were aged, shall we say. Not going to lie, I was immediately blown away as I had never seen anything like it before. All these different coloured creatures, so vibrant, and they're all so different. If memory serves me well, I think he had like a Rattata, Vulpix, Ponyta, and a bunch of others. The funny thing is, at the time, no one knew how to actually play the card game or what they were used for. But there's one thing we did know, and that was Pokemon cards was the new thing that everyone wanted. I think Sam got given the cards from a friend, and then he gave me one of them. So in essence, my card was like a hand-me-down. I remember very clearly it was a beat-up Kakuna that looked like it had been flushed down the drain. But to the 9-year-old me, that didn't matter because I now had my very own Pokemon card. I inspected every part of this card meticulously, trying to figure out what its purpose was supposed to be. There was no internet, and I didn't have a rulebook of any sort, so there was no limit to my imagination. Anyway, so after some time, I begged my parents to buy me some Pokemon cards. That was obviously the logical next step towards my journey as a Pokemon master. After all, how does one expect me to become a Pokemon master without Pokemon cards? I remember very clearly my dad taking me to Argos after school, which is a store in the UK, and bought me the theme deck with Hitmonchan on it. I think it's called the Blackout theme deck. I tore it open, threw away the box, never read the instructions, didn't have to. Pretty sure I couldn't read anyway. Nevertheless, this deck was awesome. It had, of course, Hitmonchan, which was the holo, Squirtle, Machop, Sandshrew, and way more. No one cared about energy cards, so I left those at home. You'd also get a coin, I think, in the box, and some damage counters, which none of the kids knew what to do with. Back then for us, the cards were simply evaluated on whichever Pokemon did more damage or looked cooler. In reality though, there were 4 kinds of rarity. Circle for commons, Diamond for uncommons, Star for rare, and holographic rares. We refer to these holographic cards as shiny cards. I think the word holographic was beyond the vocabulary of the 9-year-old me. Weirdly enough, there were also a lot of Japanese and fake cards that made their way to the UK very quickly. Japanese cards were still somewhat popular. I don't think we care too much about the language, honestly. A holo is a holo regardless of the language. To be fair, Pokemon wasn't completely unknown because even without the internet, we did have the games very soon. Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, which came out a little bit after. So even then we knew all the 151 Pokemon that existed, but the cards when they were first released didn't include all of them. The first one that came out was called Base Set, and that's the one with the 3 starters, Chansey, Gyarados, Machamp in the starter deck, etc. And sometime after that, maybe a few months later, came 2 new booster sets. Those were Jungle and Fossil. I remember people getting super excited about these new cards in these sets because it was the first time we saw cards like Gengar, Articuno, Aerodactyl, and Dragonite. There's one Pokemon card that ruled them all. Now, the Pokemon fans know exactly where this is heading. The king of all Pokemon cards, the one and only base set Charizard. You know it, I know it, everyone knows it. This was the original OG showstopper. Fire Spin, 1 quadrillion damage. That's all that mattered. Well, actually, it was more like 100. Doesn't matter. Anyway, so I played the Pokemon games as well, but that came out slightly after I discovered the cards. The funny thing is, in my memory, I always thought for the longest time that I chose Charmander as my starter. Of course I did. What else would I pick? This is where it gets interesting. You see, I read my diary recently, which I wrote when I was very young. Yes, I kept a diary when I was in school. And in the diary, it said, "Today I played Pokemon. I chose Squirtle." Squirtle of all things. As you can imagine, I don't know how I should feel towards my younger self. Also, apparently I have very strong selective memory going on as to what actually happened. I don't think I personally ever had a favorite card when I was younger, which is odd to say after I just praised Charizard so much. For me, it was more about collecting different holos and completing the set if possible. Unfortunately, like with all things, the hype faded away rather fast, actually. By the time the Team Rocket and Gym Challenge sets came out, which were Pokemon that had trainer names attached to them, like Blaine's Charizard or Team Rocket's Mewtwo for example, most people had already lost interest in the card game and just Pokemon in general. It was a little different for me though, as Pokemon always held a special place in my heart, and I ended up playing all the Pokemon games from Red, Blue and Yellow all the way through to Sword and Shield. I think Gen 2 was my favorite, by the way. Probably Pokemon Crystal. I think one of the reasons why I liked Pokemon so much was partially due to its sophistication when it came to the games, especially in competitive battling, and that it was more than just action figures or a TV show. Obviously, I'm biased towards Pokemon, but other franchises at the time, to me, were always very one-dimensional. I felt the Pokemon games were very well made, possibly a contender for the best game ever created. I mean, that part's debatable. But still, it holds up very well even today, and I've been replaying the older games on my original Game Boy and DS recently. Oh, and I'm still kind of collecting Pokemon cards. I feel weird saying that because it does surprise people a little. Anyway, unlike my younger days, I do indeed have a favorite card now, and that's the base set Charizard as well as base set Pikachu. Quite boring and predictable, I know, I'm sorry. But there we are, a random story of Pokemon cards from me. Anyway, until next time, bye!